2.75 million. That's how many foreigners are currently living in Japan. I would bet my life that at least 99.9% of all my fellow big nose compatriots have heard this at least once. すいません。落とし物。
ありがとうございます。すごい日本語上手ですね。
You see, the words Nihongo Jozu are passed out to foreigners so often it might as well be meaningless. But I think I know exactly why. You might think it's because Japanese people think that the Japanese language is so hard to learn that there's no way a foreigner could learn it. No. Is it because most foreigners in Japan at any one time are tourists and might not even be learning Japanese? Again, no. Is it because so many foreigners are married to English-speaking wives and have no desire to learn? No, but those guys really don't know what they're missing out on. Is it because so many foreigners only come to teach English and don't use Japanese in their daily life? No, man. I'll tell you why. You see, mate, most foreigners who live in Japan are just young lads and lasses either on a gap year or just travelling around Asia. They teach English so they can have a means to live while they soak up the culture. And of course that might include learning the language as well, but it's never going to be a priority. Even the weebiest of weeaboos can only last 3 to 5 years here before they start feeling homesick and need to go home. Even Japanese companies who hire mostly gaijin agree that gaijin normally move to Japan in waves. You get one group of new foreigners moving over, only for them to leave and a new wave to take their place. So in terms of Japanese, if your average tourist is here, your average Japanese person is here, and your average gaijin who's living in Japan for about 3 to 5 years is usually around here. And there is a real scale that I can compare this to. The Japanese Language Proficiency Test, otherwise known as the JLPT. The JLPT scale runs from N5, which is basic Japanese, to N1, which is around the level of a Japanese junior high school student. I would put a regular old gaijin around here, with a Japanese friend around here. You see, the average Japanese person can speak, read and write far better than the N1 level. So why is it that a foreigner living in Japan for 3 to 5 years can't get better than this? It comes down to the fact that there's an invisible wall that most foreigners can't break through, and that wall is kanji. You see, many people claim that Japanese has 3 alphabets, but that actually isn't true. Japanese doesn't have any alphabet, but it does have 3 writing systems. You have hiragana and katakana, of which many of the characters look very similar. Some look different, kinda similar to our alphabet. We have capital and lowercase letters, but these are quite easy and many foreigners can learn these. The third system, however, is kanji, or Chinese characters. Out of the tens of thousands of Chinese characters used over the centuries, Japan has cherry-picked a list of a few thousand that they have adopted into their regular language. Now, kanji can be very difficult to learn, but there have been many foreigners who have learned all the kanji that they need to use in Japanese. Be that by non-stop drilling kanji drill books, kinda like the Japanese children do at school, or by relying on textbooks, which can waste a lot of time. Now let's stop a minute. See, I need to apologize, as this video has been very Western centric. I've been saying foreigner, but what I needed to say was Westerner, because here are 2 men, one's English and one's Chinese. They both start out speaking zero Japanese, and at first their growth is similar, but as the kanji get more and more difficult, our Englishman's progress gets slower and slower, while our Chinese man only gets better. You see, the English and Chinese man were never on equal footing in the first place. Our Chinese man already has kanji under his belt. He has learned way more kanji in his native China than they ever use in Japanese. But what does that have to do with why so many foreigners get told that their Nihongo is Jozu, despite the majority of foreigners being anything but? Well, I just did the same thing as many Japanese people are doing. You see, in general, Japanese people refer to gaijin to mean Westerners, be it white people, black people, Asian Europeans or Americans and people like that. For Chinese people, Koreans, Vietnamese, etc., they are much more likely to call them by their proper nationality, 中国人, 韓国人, etc. When there are 2.75 million foreigners in Japan, and 27.8% of those are Chinese, 15.6 being Korean, and 13.4 being Vietnamese, that only leaves 42% other. That could literally be any other race or ethnicity of people on Earth. But as we discussed earlier, only a portion of those people have reached the level of around N3, which is usually the highest amount of Japanese that a Western mid to long-term resident of Japan will be able to speak. A good chunk also have a much better level than that, and unfortunately there are many who don't even bother to learn at all. So now you might be able to understand why so many Japanese people dish out Nihongo Jozu like Osaka Oba-chan's handing out candy. They're not used to Westerners being able to speak any decent Japanese, so they're complimenting you on your effort, so please try not to feel patronized. But what if you actually do want to be one of the few foreigners who can actually speak Japanese beyond this Jozu level? Well, let's go back to our English and Chinese friends. What if there was a way for our Englishmen to never hit that kanji wall in the first place and go on to learn Japanese at the same rate as the Chinese man? Well, there is. You see, learning kanji can be very difficult, and I'll show you why. This is the usual amount of information you might find if you search a kanji online. You'll find the kanji itself, its Chinese derived reading or its onyomi, and its Japanese reading called its kunyomi. You'll then also find the kanji's meaning and maybe even some example words. Can you see that this amount of information to learn at one point could be very difficult? It's a bit overwhelming even for me to look at. For a Chinese friend, he already knows the kanji and the meaning, so he only needs to focus on the readings, while the Englishman needs to learn all of this. But what if there was a better way? Well, there is. You see, most textbooks follow a similar pattern of the Japanese school system, following a list of kanji that, although very common, are very different to one another. Which do you think would be easier to learn? These 3 kanji or these 3 kanji? You see, kanji are made up of parts, and these parts show up in a load of different kanji. Following a method of learning kanji in a certain order that orders the kanji in a way that makes each kanji progressively easier to learn as their component parts are already learned by the student makes things a lot easier. This is the way I managed to learn all of the kanji used in daily life in only 4 months, and many people can do it faster. In my case, I was working a full-time job and I was raising a young son. The method that I used is called the AJAP method, which stands for All Japanese All the Time. It's a method first brought to the internet at large by this man called Katz. Katz got himself to an exceptionally high level of Japanese in a very short amount of time, at the same time working multiple jobs and genuinely just being a busy person. In more recent times, YouTubers such as Matt vs Japan have also made videos discussing similar methods. But the main point of this method is immersion. Get yourself as immersed with the Japanese language as you possibly can. Make sure that all your media is Japanese, only listen to Japanese music, only watch Japanese language TV, and try to read as much Japanese as possible, as well as learning all of the kanji using the book Remembering the Kanji by James Heisig. The point of this book is to learn all of the kanji in your native language first, ignoring how to read them for now and only focusing on the meaning itself. You then go on to use a spaced repetition application such as Anki, which will help you remember the information. Now, I struggle with the immersion, I'm not going to lie. I don't watch anime, I don't particularly like Japanese TV, but what I do love is Japanese music. So I'll try to listen and read the lyrics of as many songs as I could. But what was I doing for kanji? Well, to make this video as truthful as possible, I actually went back to the area that I was living in at the time to show you exactly how I studied. I'd usually wake up in the morning and go to work as normal. And then during my lunch break and after work, I'd come by the local konbini and grab a coffee. Then I'd take a seat in their eat-in space and use my old beaten up laptop that I only ever used to go through my Anki cards as I was studying. I'd make my way through all of the cards and make sure I did them every day. Even when going out to chill with a beer, I'd bring a little scrap paper and make a few more reviews as I was trying to chill out. It was really important for me to get this under my belt, as with a young boy at home, finally getting to a good level of Japanese was my major priority. I did this every day for 4 months before I had finished the last of the kanji. And then it was time to move on to sentence mining. Sentence mining is the process of finding a word in a sentence that you don't know, and then finding a load of other sentences that use that word. You'll then study all of them sentences so you can learn this word in a load of different contexts. Now, although I wasn't studying Japanese in order to get the N1 qualification, I managed to pass the N1 within a year of studying this way. So that's how I got to a good level of Japanese. Good enough, in fact, that I was able to publish my own children's book entirely written in Japanese. If you'd like to support me, it's available worldwide on Amazon. If you enjoyed this video, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one too. Thanks for watching.